On my first wedding night, my husband told me he was exhausted and left the room. I thought he just needed rest. But at midnight, I woke up, hearing moans coming from my sister-in-law's room, and my heart sank. Olivia had spent months dreaming about this day. Her wedding had been everything she had hoped for, vibrant, elegant, and full of love. Surrounded by friends, family, and laughter, she had felt like the luckiest woman alive. The flowers were exquisite, the music perfect, and her husband, Allison, looked every bit the dashing man she had imagined walking into her life forever. After the reception, Olivia and Allison entered their honeymoon suite, a luxurious, softly lit space with a king-sized bed draped in white silk sheets and a view of the city skyline twinkling like diamonds. Olivia had pictured this moment countless times, the two of them alone, starting their life together intimately, wrapped in each other's arms. Her heart raced with excitement, anticipation, and nervous energy. She wanted this night to be perfect. Allison placed a suitcase by the door and turned to her with a smile that should have melted her heart. "You look incredible, Olivia," he said softly, drawing her into a brief embrace. Olivia melted into his arms, feeling the warmth and reassurance of the man she loved so dearly. "I can't believe this day is finally here," she whispered, her eyes glistening. "It's everything I ever dreamed of." Allison kissed her forehead gently, a soft smile on his lips, then let out a long sigh. "I'm exhausted," he said, his voice calm, almost weary. Olivia froze. "Exhausted? From what?" she asked, her brow furrowed in concern. "All of it," he said, glancing toward the bed. "The wedding, the reception, the family, it's been a long day. I think I just need to rest." Olivia's heart sank a little, but she tried to mask her disappointment. She had envisioned their first night together as magical, intimate, and full of love. But she didn't want to pressure him. "Okay, you rest," she said softly. "I'll just get ready for bed." He nodded and headed to the bathroom to shower, leaving Olivia alone in the room. She lingered by the mirror, smoothing the delicate fabric of her dress and adjusting her makeup. She had imagined this night so many times, and now, instead of the joy and closeness she had anticipated, there was an ache of uncertainty in her chest. She tried to tell herself it was just fatigue, that Allison needed rest, and that they would share the moment later. Hours passed slowly. Olivia slipped into the bed after Allison had seemingly fallen asleep. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the city outside. She lay there, wide awake, anticipation turning into unease. Something felt off. The excitement she had carried all day began to twist into anxiety, a gnawing sense that this night wasn't going to unfold the way she had imagined. Then, around midnight, Olivia awoke to a sound that made her heart stop. At first, she thought it was her imagination, a low, muffled noise that didn't belong to Allison. But as she strained to listen, the sound became unmistakable. Moans, soft and intimate, coming from the adjoining guest room. Her mind froze. The guest room belonged to her sister-in-law, Tasha, who had stayed over for the wedding festivities. Olivia's stomach dropped. No, this can't be happening. Not now, not tonight. She felt a cold wave of fear and disbelief wash over her. Her chest tightened, her palms clammy as she tried to process what she was hearing. The moans were unmistakable, and each one pierced her heart like a dagger. Her husband, the man she had just married, the man she had trusted with her life and her heart, was in that room, with Tasha. Her thoughts spun in disbelief, horror, and confusion. Tears welled in her eyes, not just from the shock but from a deep, gut-wrenching sense of betrayal. The night she had imagined filled with love, closeness, and intimacy had become a nightmare she could not wake from. Her dreams of a perfect beginning to her marriage had shattered in an instant. Olivia clutched the edge of the bed, her mind racing. How could Allison do this on their wedding night? The man she had trusted with her heart, the one she had envisioned spending forever with, had chosen to betray her in the most unimaginable way. She wanted to scream, to confront him, to demand answers, but fear, shock, and disbelief held her frozen. The room, which had once felt like a sanctuary, now felt suffocating, cruel, and alien. The soft glow of the city lights outside did nothing to warm the chill that had settled in her chest. Her first night as a wife, the night that was supposed to be magical, sacred, and full of love, was now defined by betrayal, secrecy, and unimaginable heartache. She pressed her hands to her mouth to stifle a sob, her mind a storm of emotions, grief, anger, shock, and a trembling sense of despair. Her world, which had seemed so secure and full of love just hours before, now felt like it was crumbling. The person she had trusted the most had betrayed her in a way that cut deeper than anything she had ever imagined. Olivia sank to the edge of the bed, tears streaming down her face as the reality sank in. The night she had dreamed of for years had become a memory of pain and heartbreak, a night that would mark the beginning of a journey she hadn't anticipated. The betrayal was personal, intimate, and devastating. Her heart ached not just for herself, but for the trust and love she had given freely, only to have it trample. Olivia's mind raced as she sat on the edge of the bed, her body trembling and heart pounding. She couldn't believe what she had just heard. Allison, the man she had just married, the man she had promised to love and cherish for the rest of her life, was in the next room, with Tasha, her sister-in-law. The reality of it felt surreal, almost unreal, like a nightmare she hadn't yet woken from. Her breaths came in shallow, panicked bursts as she tried to make sense of it all. How could this happen? On their wedding night? The night that was supposed to mark the beginning of their life together? She felt dizzy, nauseated, and utterly betrayed. Every memory of Allison's smiles, his vows, his gentle touches throughout the wedding day now twisted into cruel reminders of his deceit. She thought of the way he had looked at her during the ceremony, the tenderness in his eyes, the warmth in his voice as he whispered, "I love you." Had all of that been a lie? The thought burned her chest like fire, a painful realization that the man she had trusted most in the world had used her trust as a stepping stone for betrayal. Olivia wiped her tears with trembling hands, trying to steady herself. She didn't want to scream, not yet. She wanted answers, but she also feared the truth might be even more devastating than the sound she had already heard. Her mind was a whirlwind of questions. How long had this been going on? Did Tasha know he was married? Was anyone else aware? The uncertainty made her stomach twist with anxiety. The soft sounds from the adjoining room continued, sending fresh waves of anguish through her. Each moan, each whisper of intimacy, was like salt in an open wound. Olivia's body shook with a mixture of sorrow and rage. She had spent months planning this wedding, dreaming of the first night with the man she loved, and now it was all stolen from her in the cruelest possible way. Her friends, who had stayed over for the wedding festivities, had all gone to sleep hours ago. She was alone with her thoughts, alone with the sound of betrayal, and alone with the sinking realization that Allison, the man she had chosen to spend her life with, was capable of such deceit. She considered confronting him immediately, storming into the room and demanding the truth. But a small, cautious voice in her head warned her to wait, to not act in the heat of raw emotion. Part of her wanted to burst into the room and scream, to pull Allison back into the harsh light of reality and make him face the consequences. Another part of her, the part still clinging to hope, wanted to believe she had misheard, that somehow, some explanation existed that would make sense. Olivia's mind flashed back to earlier in the evening, how tired Allison had seemed, how he had claimed exhaustion. She remembered the words and the sighs, and a bitter realization settled in. His exhaustion had been a lie, a cover for what he was doing. The very thought made her stomach churn with revulsion and anger. She felt foolish for having trusted him so completely, for believing in the promises and the smiles that had now revealed themselves as empty gestures. The tears kept coming, and Olivia found herself shaking with quiet sobs, her body racked with a mixture of grief, betrayal, and disbelief. She had imagined love as safety, trust as a given, and fidelity as sacred, but all of that had been shattered in a single, cruel night. A flicker of anger began to rise within her, sharp and fiery. How dare he? How dare Allison, the man she had given her heart to, betray her on the night she had dreamed of for years? How dare Tasha, her sister-in-law, betray her trust and the sanctity of her family? The thought of confronting them both brought a tense, nervous energy through her, and she realized she couldn't stay paralyzed by shock forever. Olivia took a deep breath, trying to gather her thoughts. She needed a plan. She couldn't just collapse into despair. By mid-morning, Olivia could no longer sit in silence. The heartbreak and betrayal had twisted inside her chest like a storm, demanding acknowledgement. She couldn't let Allison pretend everything was normal. She had to confront him, face the truth, and finally see the man she had married for who he really was. She stepped into the adjoining room quietly at first, her heart hammering in her chest. Allison and Tasha were startled, caught in a moment of intimacy that made Olivia's stomach churn. Allison looked up, a flash of guilt crossing his face, followed almost immediately by annoyance. "Olivia, I can't explain," he said, trying to maintain control, as if words could somehow erase the pain he had caused. "Explain?" Olivia's voice was trembling, but firm, piercing through the tense air. "Explain? Allison, this is our wedding night. I thought we were beginning our life together, not living a nightmare. How could you do this? How could you betray me with your own sister-in-law?" Tasha, equally shocked and guilty, stayed silent, eyes darting between the two of them. Olivia's gaze burned into her, a mix of confusion, anger, and disbelief. She couldn't comprehend how two people she trusted could betray her so completely. Allison rubbed the back of his neck, looking for an excuse, a justification, any way to soften the blow. "Olivia, it's complicated. It's not what you think." "It's exactly what I think," Olivia snapped, stepping closer, her fists clenched. "I heard everything, Allison. I know exactly what's been happening. Do you even realize how much pain you've caused me? Do you even care?" Allison faltered for a moment, but the arrogance in his eyes returned almost instantly. "Olivia, don't make this a big deal. You're overreacting," he said, as if her heartbreak were a petty inconvenience rather than a devastating betrayal. Olivia's anger surged, a burning flame of fury and hurt. "Overreacting? Overreacting? I trusted you with my heart, Allison. I trusted you with my life. And you chose to humiliate me, betray me, and disrespect me on the very night I was supposed to feel loved, cherished, and safe." Tasha finally spoke, her voice small, hesitant, almost apologetic. "Olivia, I didn't mean for..." "Don't." Olivia cut her off sharply. "I don't want excuses. I don't want apologies that aren't sincere. I want the truth, and I want to make it clear that nothing about this is acceptable. Not the lies, not the betrayal, not the disrespect. You both have crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed." Her heart pounded, tears stinging her eyes, but beneath the heartbreak, a steely resolve had begun to form. She realized that confronting them wasn't just about demanding answers. It was about reclaiming her dignity, asserting her worth, and refusing to let their betrayal define her. Allison opened his mouth, perhaps to argue or justify himself, but Olivia held up a hand.
"No, Allison.
I don't need your excuses. I don't need you to tell me why you did this. I only need you to understand that I will not tolerate this. I will not stay with someone who treats my love, my trust, and my heart as a joke." The weight of her words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and unshakable. Allison looked at her, perhaps for the first time seeing the full measure of her pain and determination. Olivia's posture, her fiery eyes, her unwavering tone, everything about her conveyed strength, even in the midst of devastation. Tasha shrank back, silent, unable to meet her gaze. Olivia's anger was directed mostly at Allison, but the betrayal by someone she had considered family cut even deeper. She realized in that moment that trust, once broken, could never be restored easily. Not with them. Not with anyone who had chosen deceit over love. Olivia stepped back, taking a deep, steadying breath. "I came into this marriage believing in love, loyalty, and respect. I believed in you, Allison. But now I see that those things mean nothing to you. And I refuse to spend the rest of my life with someone who cannot honor them. Allison's face shifted from arrogance to frustration, then to an awkward silence. He had no words that could undo what he had done, no apologies that could mend the broken trust. Olivia, however, felt a sense of clarity she hadn't felt before. The man she had married was not the partner she needed. He was not the man who would cherish her, respect her, or love her unconditionally. She turned, walking away from him, away from the room, and toward the bedroom she had once shared with hope and excitement. Her steps were slow but purposeful, each one carrying her closer to a future that no longer included betrayal and heartbreak. For the first time since discovering the truth, Olivia felt a spark of empowerment. She had faced the betrayal, confronted it head-on, and refused to let it define her. Her heart was wounded, yes, but it was also awakening to the strength she had within herself. She knew now that she deserved better. She would not settle for less than love that uplifted, honored, and respected her completely. The days following Olivia's confrontation with Allison were some of the hardest she had ever faced. Her mind replayed the events of her wedding night like a relentless storm, each memory twisting the knife of betrayal deeper. But amidst the pain, a quiet voice began to stir within her, a voice reminding her that her worth, her happiness, and her dignity were hers to reclaim. Olivia knew she couldn't undo what had happened, but she could control how she responded. She refused to let Allison's selfishness define her life. She spent the first morning after the confrontation sitting by the window, sipping tea, and letting the soft sunlight warm her face. She watched the city come alive below, people walking, laughing, and living, and she realized life didn't stop for heartbreak. She had to move forward, on her own terms. Her friends became her lifeline. Tia and Malik, who had attended the wedding, stayed by her side, offering support without judgment. They encouraged her to express her pain openly, to cry, scream, or laugh whenever it felt necessary. With them, Olivia felt a sense of safety she hadn't realized she needed. They reminded her that she wasn't alone, that she had a network of people who loved her unconditionally. Olivia also took time to reflect on herself. She revisited hobbies and passions that had been neglected during wedding planning, the painting, the photography, even the little rituals that brought her joy. She found comfort in creating, pouring her emotions into art. Each brushstroke and click of the camera lends a release of grief, a step toward healing. Social media, once a place that had felt like a trap after the wedding disaster, became a tool for empowerment. Olivia shared reflections on resilience, self-love, and the importance of valuing oneself. Her posts resonated with others who had faced betrayal or heartbreak, creating a ripple of connection and encouragement. It reminded her that, even in suffering, there was power in sharing her story. Sleep became a sacred ritual. Olivia allowed herself rest without guilt, knowing that healing required both emotional and physical recovery. She nurtured herself in small ways: long baths, favorite books, calming music, and moments of quiet reflection. Each act of self-care was a statement. She would not be defined by Allison's betrayal. She would rise stronger. Slowly, clarity emerged. Olivia realized that the betrayal, as devastating as it was, had illuminated the truth about Allison. He was not the partner she needed. He could not honor her heart or respect her love. And this knowledge, painful as it was, became liberating. She could now move forward without illusions, free to seek a future that aligned with her worth. She also forgave herself for the vulnerability that had been exploited. Saying "I love you" so fully, trusting someone completely, it was not a mistake. It was a testament to her capacity for deep love, a gift that would one day be cherished by someone deserving. She began to see the heartbreak not as failure, but as a stepping stone to wisdom and emotional growth. Weeks turned into months, and Olivia discovered a sense of peace she hadn't known before. She traveled, explored new places, and celebrated milestones with joy, unshadowed by fear or betrayal. Each day reminded her that happiness could exist independently of the man who had hurt her. Each moment of laughter, each night of restful sleep, and each new connection reinforced her sense of self-worth. And while she sometimes thought of Allison and the sister-in-law who had betrayed her, the sting of those memories was less sharp. They were reminders, not anchors, proof that she had endured, confronted, and risen above. The night that had begun as a dream and ended as a nightmare had become a catalyst for her empowerment. Olivia's heart was healing, stronger and wiser. She realized she would love again, but differently, carefully, deliberately, and with eyes wide open. She understood now that true love is grounded in respect, trust, and reciprocity. Anything less was not acceptable, and she refused to compromise on her value. On quiet evenings, she would sit by her window, city lights twinkling below, and smile softly. She had survived the deepest betrayal, faced it with courage, and emerged empowered. Her first night of marriage had been stolen from her, but her life was hers to reclaim. The future was no longer defined by the mistakes or cruelty of another. It was defined by her choices, her strength, and her resilience. Olivia knew this was just the beginning. A beginning of self-discovery, growth, and the promise of real, fulfilling love in the future. She had been broken, yes, but she had also been reborn, and this time, she held the pieces in her own hands. Thank you, lovelies, for staying till the end of my story. It means a lot to me. Kindly subscribe to this channel and like this story for more dramas like this.